The man put a 30-centimeter long pipe into the woman's mouth. Then took a cockroach and put it in the pipe. He covered her mouth tightly. In this way, he swallowed the cockroach alive. To save the woman from suffering, the man cut the woman's stomach with a knife. Then he took the woman's heart alive. The woman immediately hated Northwest. You think this woman is very pathetic. But actually this is the answer the woman deserves. More than 10 years ago, they are a group of strangers who meet each other at a summer camp. They saw boys, so a girl's school bully took a cockroach. Then put it in the boy's mouth, and closed his mouth. The boy didn't dare to fight back, so he could only let them do it, afraid that the boy will spit out the cockroach. So the boy-girl friend covered her mouth with her hand and kept shaking, until the boy swallowed the cockroach alive. He released his hand in satisfaction, then put the poisonous ants in the boy's hair. The ant crawled along the face and right into the ear. The little boy was scared, but he didn't dare to fight back. The ant entered his ears smoothly. The boy howled in pain, and kept trying to get the ant out with his finger. But the ant still did not come out. In the end the boy ran away in anger. Nonetheless, they had no plans to let it go. The boy's name was Sean. They chased him and he dug his hands into the ground with nails. Sean lay on the ground. They pull out a box, which turns out to be full of maggots. The little chubby kid took a handful of maggots from the box and splashed them in Sean's face. The next day, they trekked to another place. That is a dilapidated wooden hut. They threatened Sean to come in and have a look. He didn't dare not to go. But he had to walk towards the wooden hut trembling. As Sean looked in the glass window, suddenly his mouth was gagged and taken away. They were frightened when they saw him, but there was no one to help him. They turned and ran away. In this way, Sean was caught and he was treated like cattle. Feed raw meat every day. Sean also led a life of darkness since then, because the man who caught her was a very violent man. Make him work every day until he is tired and dehydrated. Even he was sprayed with blood. If he didn't obey, he would treat Sean in various cruel ways. After a long time, Sean's heart began to distort. He secretly swore that one day he would get his revenge. Time passed, and Sean had grown up. His revenge plan starts from this moment. He hung the old man in the air. Underneath is boiling water, facing the old man's request. Sean remained indifferent. He let go of the chain, and after a struggle, the old man, who had imprisoned him for so many years, was released. Finally, I hate Northwest. After that, Sean peeled off the old man's face and made it into a human skin mask. His next target was the naughty boy who was torturing him back then. He managed to catch a few of them. He took out a large needle tube filled with worm eggs and let Dashan inject it into the woman's ear. Dashan injected the egg into the woman's ear, and the woman continued to howl. Begged him until Dashan put in all his eggs. Sean tossed the woman aside, then came around the corner and grabbed the man's head. His head kept banging against the wall. It was this man who asked him to go to the log cabin. If it weren't for him, Sean would not be imprisoned by that cruel man for many years, until he beat the man to death. After that he slammed the door angrily and left. After Sean left, Dashan took out a small knife fragment from somewhere. So he turned his hand back and quickly cut the rope with the knife. The man lying on the ground at the side advised him not to even think about running away. If Sean finds out, everyone will be punished more severely. At this time, Sean happened to see Dashan's small movements under his surveillance, then quickly opened the door to enter. Dashan managed to cut the rope, then quickly escaped outside. But Shaun didn't chase after her, and went straight to the woman. He began to torture her, hoping to use the woman's cries for help to get Dashan to turn around. But Dashan didn't really care. Dashan comes to the door, but it is locked. Seeing the ventilation above, he climbed up without thinking. But what he didn't expect was that the ventilation duct had aged for a long time. He had barely climbed half the distance, but fell to the ground hard, and fainted on the spot. When he woke up, he found that his wrists had been tied with even thicker iron chains. Then saw Shaun come in with an axe. Came to the man earlier, and handed the axe to him. The man seemed to understand what he had to do. If he disobeyed Shaun's order, he would be punished more severely. He raised the axe in his hand without hesitation. It hit Dashan's head hard. Then, Shaun gave him a nail, pointing to his palm, signaling him to drive nails into Dashan's palms. The security guard grabbed one of Dashan's right hands and immediately hammered a nail into his palm. The severe pain woke Dashan up in an instant, then fainted again in an instant. While picking up the nails and sticking them in his left hand, Dashan suffered a lot more. When finished, Shaun took an axe and left very satisfied. When Dashan woke up again, he saw 2 bloody hands nailed to the wall. He was even more vicious and forcibly pulled out the nails. At this time, Xiaomai said that the man who imprisoned them was the person they bullied at that time, because Xiaomai saw the mark on the back of the boy's hand. After deciding that they couldn't go on like this, Dashan also thought of a way, so some people pretended to argue. Shaun happened to see this scene from the surveillance camera. When he came to check on it, Dashan sincerely apologizes to Shaun for the mistake he made back then. Shaun was just about to be impressed by her sincerity. At this time, Shaun suddenly moved, clutching Dashan's neck. Then remove the needle containing worm eggs. Make it grow worms and eat people. Then he pushed the security guard next to him to the ground and handed Xiaomai a small knife. Used his hand to gouge the man's eye out, and Shaun opened the man's eye. The woman made a cut in the corner of her eye with a knife. Then put a mistletoe in his eyes. The parasite enters quickly. The security guard covered his eyes and howled desperately. But it's not over. Shaun took the iron chain and strangled Dashan's neck tightly. Seeing this, Xiaomai began to stimulate him with words that were so hard to hear, which also stimulated her thoroughly. Shaun started getting dizzy, from being stimulated by women in this way since he was imprisoned as a child, and his condition started to get worse. In the end, he couldn't listen anymore. Shaun let go of the iron chain in his hand, and angrily slammed the door and left. After Shaun left, Dashan immediately used a knife to open the chain in his hand. Then he immediately went to the security guard. Seeing that the bug was gnawing at him with a speed imperceptible to the naked eye. If it wasn't dealt with quickly, then he would lose his life. The only way now is to dig out the eyeballs. They both held their heads tightly. Dashan directly used a knife to dig out the eyeball, and saved his life. On the other hand, Shaun, who was stimulated, started destroying things, to vent the anger that had been harbored in his heart for so many years. At this moment, the security guard, who had just been gouged out by his eyeballs, couldn't endure the painful torture. So he stretched out his hand to Dashan, and wanted to kill himself. But how could Dashan let him kill himself? So the two started fighting. Seeing that Xiaomai on the side couldn't persuade him, so he took a rock and tried to stun the security guard, but unintentionally, the daggers in their hands penetrated the main artery of the security guard, until he lost his life. Seeing this, Xiaomai took the dagger, pointed it at Dashan, and started complaining about him. At this time, Shaun suddenly appeared and strangled Xiaomei's neck. Seeing this, Das Han apologized, and comforted Shaun with words while taking off Shaun's mask. When he saw Shaun's appearance, Das Han was shocked. Who would have thought that there would be such a handsome face under that scary mask? He went to get the dagger in Shaun's hand as he spoke. Just as Shaun was about to confess, suddenly, a number of insects flew out of Xiaomei's mouth. Shaun immediately covered his mouth and turned around. Seeing this, Das Han stabbed Shaun in the lower back. When about to stab a second time, Shaun turned around and Das Han stabbed Xiaomei in the stomach. Seeing this, Das Han immediately took the opportunity to escape. Shaun immediately chased after him. Das Han was choked by Shaun, and when he was about to suffocate, he grabbed the dagger next to him and stabbed Shaun. At this time Shaun also lay beside him. Das Han is the only survivor, and he is returned by the police. Years later, Das Han's two daughters have also grown up. They were boasting with their classmates in the forest, saying that their father fought the god of death here. But suddenly there was a sound behind him, and they turned their heads. It seemed to see a figure behind the tree. But before he could recover, there was a scream at the end.